we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us today for our virtual meeting. This is going to be a public hearing about our proposed changes to some permit documentation that we'll go over. So let's dive right in. My name is Emily Kaiser, and I am the communications manager here at the Road Commission. I'll be the meeting host, and then I'll go over who else you're going to be hearing from today. Before I turn it over to our project manager for this work, I'll just go over a few housekeeping items, and then Mark will do a presentation about the proposed changes, just kind of high level outline, and then we will open it up to public comment, and I'll provide instructions as to how to do that when we get to that point. So with us today, our presenter is going to be Mark McCullough. He is the Senior Project Manager of Permits. So he oversees our permit section, and his contact information is here. The permits general number is also here, and we'll show you where you can find that information on the website as well. Just a couple housekeeping items. So the meeting audio and video is being recorded, and it will be posted to wcroads.org in the next day or two. It will also be posted to the Road Commission's YouTube channel if you want to go back and watch or review or just review what we talked about. You will be asked during the public comment period to virtually raise your hand if you want to make a verbal comment. And again, I'll provide instructions as to how to do that. You can do that either from your smartphone or from your computer or from your touch tone phone, and I'll provide those instructions. And lastly, chat is enabled. I'll show you later in the presentation how you can provide written comment on our website, but if you'd like to provide comment in chat, I can save that as well. So you can do that through chat, or if you have questions for me as the host, I'd be happy to help address those in chat. So with that, I will turn it over to Mark.
Thanks, Emily. Good morning, everyone. Looking at the attendee list here on the side, I know many of you, so good to see you. This is going to be more, although this is by law, we have to make this a public hearing, and we'll follow those requirements as stated in the statute. More or less, the comment period can be, when we open up the forum, can be more or less informal, since we know many of you here. So we're going to talk about our revised permit regulations, procedures and regulations for permit activities. This was a document that many of you, are familiar with, that is used to guide the Road Commission, as what we like to call the rules of the road, for any work that occurs within the right-of-way, whether it be utility related, driveway related, commercial development related. This document was last adopted, revised in 2006. So being that it's been 15 years since the Road Commission last visited this document to update it, we felt the time was right for us to make amendments that we thought were both necessary and smart in order to change with the times as far as how things are done in the field with current practices and industries, as well as update standards that are required by law. So that's pretty much the reasons why we went through this exercise, and we're here to share these with you as, like Emily said, a broad 30,000-foot viewpoint, and then we can go into the details as necessary when the questions come up in the public comment period. Next slide, Emily. Okay, so in 2021, we have reflect these legal changes in their documents, and which I reset a lot of these things. So reflect industry changes, few subsections that are forthcoming, primarily with pathways that are built in the right-of-way under permit, and ADA laws that are required by the Federal Department of Justice, or just to name a few. And then we simplified a few sections. Next slide, Emily. Couple of those in particular, for those that's Marion, I know this is nothing new to you. The Small Cell Wireless Communications Act that was passed at the state legislature. This is basically what we call the 5G. This is going to be pretty revolutionary as far as how the public at large is going to be able to collect data with their cell phones or laptops using wireless facilities. People are going to start noticing many of these boxes in urban areas around Washtenaw County as time marches on, so that their customers can get high-speed internet. So that's something that's going to be forthcoming within Washtenaw County. And I've already reflected the Americans with Disabilities Act. That's been around since 1992, so it's really nothing new. It's just that it's been through court challenges and decisions. There's been some updates as far as what is deemed applicable and what's not applicable, as far as what can and should happen to pedestrians that are using our road right away. Next slide, Emily. And then, like I said, the new subsections, non-motorized facilities, those are pretty common with townships. A big one that we're going to be, I think, that's going to be a game changer in the benefit of property owners is establishing low volume standards for sight distances on roads that are not traveled very heavily by the public. So these are typically roads that have, on average, about 100 cars a day on them. And what it's going to do is not as much sight distance is going to be required to establish a new driveway in order to obtain a permit from the Washtenaw County Road Commission. This in turn will reduce the amount of trees and disruption that has to occur along the roadside in order to have a driveway constructed. Next, Emily. And then finally, the fee schedule is going to be tweaked. Last time, again, this was updated, was February 1st, 2007. Maybe 8 now. I'm blending my dates, but regardless, it's been a while. Since then, inflation has taken place. We don't collect fees to collect revenue per se to make a profit. What we do is it covers our costs that it takes for the Road Commission to process and review an application. So that's the times have changed a little bit, being that it's been 12, 13 years since those last fees were updated. It was time for us to revisit that and apply, raise certain areas accordingly that we felt was necessary. But ultimately, that'll be a board decision as far as what end results come of that. Next, Emily. And you can find all our information online on our permits page. So if you go to www.wcroads.org, under the permits tab, you'll find the applications that you're seeking. You can find the fee schedule that's being proposed, and also the procedures and regulations, the draft agreement that is being open for discussion as far as what we're taking comment back on as part of this
Mark,
public hearing today.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I can show the group real quick how they can find that.
Yeah, please do, Emily. Thank you.
Yep. Hold on 1 second here. So as Mark said, if you go to our website, which is wcroads.org, I'll show you the homepage. And so you can find permits. We've got hopefully you're familiar with this, but we've got a section for everything to do with permits. So if you go here under permit applications, you can find we've got this banner across here that talks about we're seeking feedback on these proposed changes. Shameless plug here. You can also find all your permit application stuff here. And we try to keep this updated, and there's just a lot of permit information on our website. But if you go to the page here, and there's also a link to the chat in this meeting as well, you can find the full documents. The procedures and regs are about 100 pages. The fee schedule is a couple pages. If you want to look through the proposed changes that we have, the documents are here. And then there's also instructions as to how you can provide written comment if you want to. Today's meeting is also on there, right? And so we'll take your verbal comment, we'll take whatever written comment that we receive, and then we'll provide all that information to the board prior to any decisions on these proposed changes. We also have had just some background information on here. We've had a working session discussion on here, so you can find that information on this website. You can also see the current procedures and regs as Mark discussed down here as well. So we try to have a lot of information up there, and then you can also submit online comment through this online comment form here. So you could fill this out, and then this would be included in that report that we'll put together for our board.
Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, so let me get back to the slides here, and then I'll.
Yeah, and just to comment further, we have received written comment from a handful of individuals. Some of them are on this call. Really appreciate that, and as far as the effort that you went through to give us your opinions as far as what we should take into consideration before any final decisions are made. I will make sure to review those in detail, and if there are any questions on that, I can respond individually to those persons, and also provide any updates as they come along. So really thankful for everyone that has submitted comments to date. So I just wanted to acknowledge that we had that. Emily, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so we are ready for public comment. Now, if this were done in the old-fashioned forum, all in person, what we do here is, before I hand it over to Emily, is just make sure you provide your name and the company that you represent for the public record. Minutes will be taken. This presentation is being recorded, so that's one form of minutes being taken, but we'll make sure to put that in written document as well. But it'll be helpful that any comments that are provided, it be associated with the name and the company that you represent. So really grateful for everyone that's here today. Looking forward to hearing your comments, and we'll answer them accordingly as we go along. So Emily, I'm going to turn the baton, hand you the baton back to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mark. So as I mentioned at the start here, there's multiple ways that we can take your comment today during this hearing. And as Mark said, if you've got questions, and we can do this a little bit more informally, if you have questions, we'd be happy to try to answer those. Or as Mark said, you can answer those offline too. But if you want to make verbal comment today, and you're joining us from your computer or smartphone, we've got instructions here on the screen. So you would click join audio, which looks like everybody has. And then you would click at reactions down here at the bottom of your screen. And then there should be a raised hand button up there in reactions. Zoom has recently moved this, much to our chagrin. So it could be under participants for you. That's where it used to be. If you see a participants button, we had a public meeting yesterday where on somebody's computer it was that, and then on others it was this reaction. So look for either participants or reactions, and then click raise hands. And then if you're joining us from your touch tone phone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. And then if anybody has raised their hand, I will unmute you one at a time for you to share your comment or your question. And so, yeah, now's the time. If you want to provide us any comment, you can raise your hand. This is where I should have the Jeopardy music, right, Mark?
Yes, Wheel of Fortune, anything.
Yeah, yeah.
I like Family Feud personally.
Well, it doesn't look like anybody has their hand raised now. Again, if you can find that, the button is either in reactions or under participants. If you don't have comment, that's fine too, but you can raise your hand by clicking that reactions or participants button and then the raise hand button. You can also, if you want to, you can provide comment to us in chat or through the online web form as I showed just a minute ago. Doesn't look like we've got any raised hands, Mark.
Emily, remind me, what date did we put as far as a cutoff for receiving comments via written email,
so
letter?
We're asking for public comments between now and April 2nd. The policy or the proposed changes have been posted since early March, so we tried to have it open for about a month. But yeah, you can submit any comments to us online via mail or email after this hearing from now through April 2nd. We do have a raised hand here. And then we've got, so Molly, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Good, Molly. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you both for the opportunity to allow feedback from stakeholders. And I'm not going to elaborate, but I did want to share that we did provide written comments, I believe, this morning, and that's with respect to the flowable fill issue. And so just, wanted to share that those were sent on behalf of DTE. And thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity to give feedback. I don't know if there's any other members of my colleagues that wish to make comment.
Molly, I do acknowledge that I have received your company's comments. I have not read them yet, but I did see that we received them minutes before I jumped online to this meeting. So thank you for that. And I was expecting those comments. So look forward to continuing that dialogue with you and your team on the flowable fill.
And we really appreciate that, Mark. And we really took a scientific perspective on this by getting a third-party engineering firm that did a formal evaluation. So we do appreciate that. And thank you on behalf of DTE.
Yeah, science is a good thing. So glad you went through that exercise. Appreciate it.
We do have just comment from Tom in chat, and he said, thank you for sharing and the opportunity to provide input. He said our organization has reviewed and either has already or will be sending along comments. But that's from Tom Covert. We do have another raised hand here from Bob Henderson.
Good to hear from you, Tom. Glad you were able to join us today, and I'll make sure to get back in touch with you.
Bob, you should be able to unmute yourself, or it looks like you are. We should be able to hear you now.
Thanks, Emily. And Mark, I wanted to echo Molly's comments. I did have a question around timing. Are we able to meet prior to the close of the comment session, or are we limited to that April date?
So many of us are going to be gone next week on vacation. But that's not to say if you've gotten comments back that, we can't have a further dialogue on the conversation. Let's put it that way. You and others are major stakeholders as far as how these rules and regulations are applied. I don't know at what point we will, we'll basically say, thank you for your comments. We've heard you, and we're moving forward towards the final completion, meaning going to our board. Not certain when that date will happen yet. I'll have to have that conversation with Matt and Cheryl of our organization. And primarily, I would make a recommendation based on the comments back that we received as I go into them in detail and determine what, and if any research is necessary on our end, because we don't want to do anything hastily and just rush to a finish line. So, maybe it could be as soon as the second board meeting in April, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happens sometime in May before we go back to the board. I know I've given you a long-winded answer there, but as far as I'm concerned, we can still host the dialogue just because the conversation closes at April 2nd.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Let's see. Oh, Bob's got another question here. Go ahead, Bob. You should be able to.
Sorry, I need a mess. I want to say thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. Just trying to develop a timeline in my head, and we'll, I guess, wait for you to reach out to us, and we'll definitely sit down with you.
Understood, Bob. Thank you.
Okay, and Mark brings up a good point. Any of our changes will have to be board approved. So I mentioned that we've been before our board with the proposed changes as they are shown to the public now. And then we will have to go before our board in an actual board meeting for their approval. So all of this stuff needs to go through board approval before it becomes live.
And although it was clear in my mind, it doesn't necessarily mean it was clear when it came out of my mouth. So let me just reiterate something. If you have provided comment by April 2nd, then yes, we can continue a dialogue within a period of time before we go to the board. But if you have not completed your comments prior to April 2nd, then there's a chance that we move on without the review of that suggestion. So just want to make that clarification.
Thanks, Mark. Let me go back to the instructions here and give another chance for any verbal or written comment. So if you want to raise your hand and provide verbal comment, you should be able to find the raise hand button either under reactions or under participants at the bottom of your screen. It could also be hovering at the top. Everybody's Zoom is a little different, so you got to maybe look for it since we're screen sharing. And then if you are joining us from a touch tone phone today, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. And you can also provide written comment in our chat or provide it in the meeting chat today, or you can provide us online comment through that online form that I showed. So are there anybody else out there that would like to make public comment today? Mark, is there anything that you'd like to share for the good of the order?
No, I'm really happy for those of you that participated, voted today, showed up, and also have provided us comments. Because like I said, a lot of you provided some really in-depth comments for us to think about. So I'm really grateful for that because, you are our stakeholders. We do serve you and you know your industry very well inside and out. So it's important that we hear from you, and just thankful for the time you've spent on that. We will definitely take those considerations seriously as we review them.
Okay, great. Well, if there's no one else that'd like to raise their hand, again, we can show you, we're taking comments now through April 2nd. And as Mark said, if you did provide comment by that deadline, we can have a dialogue with you if you had questions within that comment. And then you can submit comment either through mail or through this public comment form on our website at wcroads.org. And you can just find the permits page. We've got the link to the proposed changes to procedures there and a lot of information and the links to the web form. I'll provide it in chat one more time before we close here, just where you can find that information that I shared. And with that, there we go in chat. And I think with that, we will call it a day. Thanks everybody for coming today. We appreciate you joining us virtually. And we do have a question in chat here from Margie. Yes, the meeting is being recorded and we will post it to that webpage that I showed you at wcroads.org in the next day or two. It'll also be posted to the Road Commission's YouTube channel. So I just have to get it downloaded and then do a little snipping and just make sure our timing is all right, but I'll get it published to the website in the next day or two. So Margie, that answers your question there. Again, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to Mark or, submit your information through the website. But again, we thank everybody for coming today and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.